right, so we now move to our next item, which is the Cary 150 History Moment, and I'll recognize Councilmember Yerha for this.
Thank you very much, Mayor. Since a new school year just got underway this week, I thought tonight we would focus on the history of education in Cary. So we're going back to school. Education is vital to the life of any community. This thought was not lost on Cary's founder, Frank Page. Yes, everything begins with Frank Page. What can you do? But this is somewhat ironic in this case because Frank had little or no formal education himself, but his wife, Kate, certainly did. Kate must have had a significant influence upon education in Cary. She was formally educated, proficient in mathematics, and fluent in French. Very unusual for a woman in those days growing up in rural Harnett County. Her influence was definitely evident in her children. For example, her eldest son, Walter Hines Page, grew up to be a journalist, an editor, and ambassador to Great Britain. Son Robert was a U.S. congressman. Son Junius was a banker. Daughter Emma was a college professor. Son Henry was a railroad president. And Frank Jr. was North Carolina's first state highway commissioner. And that's just 6 of her 8 children. Quite a legacy in education and in public service. But back to Frank Sr., who even before Cary was officially incorporated, designated a sizable parcel of his own land for a school lot at the head of Academy Street, of course, where the Cary Arts Center stands today. That school building, known initially as Cary Academy and later Cary High School, was a wooden 2-story, 4-room school built in 1870 as a private boarding school. Parents from nearby towns and even some from out of state began to send their children to Cary Academy. It became Cary's first claim to fame. For example, in 1900, it had 248 students, almost half the enrollment of the entire University of North Carolina. And Cary's population at that time was just over 300. But Page sold 1/3 of the interest in the academy for a sum total of $800 to Rufus Jones in 1873. Then in 1886, he sold his remaining shares to 2 of Jones's daughters, Sarah and Lulie. Miss Lulie, along with her other sister, Miss Lily, became 2 of the school's best-known teachers for many years. And if you look close at the picture of the class on the right-hand side, the right-hand person in the front row bears a striking resemblance to Councilman Jack Smith. I assume it's his grandfather. I didn't think Jack was quite that old. Quite that old. But upon Cary's incorporation, Frank and the town school committee divided Cary into 2 districts, with 1 single teacher school for white children and another for black children in each district. They were probably not up to the standards of Cary Academy, however. A significant moment in the history of education in Cary occurred in 1893 when Alfred Daniel Buck Jones died because the black school in District 2 happened to be on his land. This allowed Cary's school committee to make arrangements for white children from District 2 to attend Cary Academy so that black students in District 2 could vacate the Jones family's property and move into the now vacant white school that became known as the Cary Colored School. This move really made it necessary for the town to buy the academy the following year. And in 1896, they did, and it was henceforth known as Cary High School. Next year that was important was 1907. It proved to be a pivotal year in Cary. That year, the North Carolina General Assembly agreed to support a statewide system of high schools. Until then, the state had put money into only primary schools and universities. Only days after the General Assembly voted, Cary High School was sold to the Wake County Board of Education, which enabled Cary citizens to proclaim proudly that theirs was the first state-assisted public high school in the state of North Carolina. Since Cary Academy had been expanded many times since its founding in 1870, it now consisted of 4 schoolrooms, 4 music rooms with 3 pianos, a reading room, a library, a literary society hall, 16 dormitories, a dining room and a kitchen, and desks and benches for 150 pupils spread over 4 acres. Moreover, in 1913, citizens approved a $25,000 bond to replace the wooden structure with a modern brick building, which you see pictured here. The state added another $5 grand, enabling Cary to erect what was called at the time the best high school building in the state. That was said by Principal Marcus Baxter Dry, who may have been somewhat biased because he served as an educator for 52 years and spent 34 of those years as principal of Cary High School. Under Dry's leadership in 1913, Cary also became one of the first high schools in the state to offer vocational agriculture and home economics. The school's young women took cooking, sewing, and other domestic science classes, and then practiced their skills in the dining halls and dormitories, while the school's young men learned scientific agriculture and animal husbandry on a 15-acre parcel where agriculture teacher E.N. Meekins taught lessons in a very hands-on manner. People all over the state began to associate Cary with the term high school. Cary had more upper-grade pupils and boarding students in 1913 than any other of the 200 state-assisted high schools. And that barn in the upper right is still there today. While Cary High School had evolved into a campus of modern brick buildings, the Cary Colored School had expanded merely from 1 to 2 rooms, which happened only after Cary considered its 2 schools for black children. Excuse me, there we go. Annie Mitchell Meadows taught grades 1, 2, 3, 4 in one room, while her husband, the school's principal, Reverend John William Meadows, taught grades 5, 6, and 7 in the other room. Several attempts were made to build a better school for black children, but nothing was done until the Cary Colored School burned down in 1935. After about a year, the school committee agreed to build an elementary school and a high school for black students. Can we go back one slide from there? Wanted to show you this picture, which looks sort of familiar, almost looks like the Cary Arts Center today. The main building for Cary High School, which was erected in 1913, had a short life because it was torn down in 1938 to make way for a new $132,000 building, which underwent a renovation and expansion in 2010 so it could all open as our Cary Arts Center today. That building looks almost like the one we have today. But here we go again. We'll move on from this. There you see Kingswood Elementary School on the right-hand side. But built on Farrell Street, the new all-black East Cary Elementary School, which is the picture on the left, had 5 rooms and 2 teachers, Maud Evans and Eva White, when it opened in 1937. Originally made of wood, it was replaced by brick buildings in the 50s, and then in 1969, it became the integrated Kingswood Elementary School, which you see there today. That was originally East Cary Elementary School. The all-black high school became West Cary Middle School after desegregation in 1965. J. Estes Byers served as principal of West Cary High School before desegregation and stayed on as principal after the integration process, which made him the first black principal of an integrated school in all of Wake County. Cary schools today, both public and private, are a source of pride. Schools on all levels, elementary, middle, and high school, have been recognized for academic achievements. High schools have racked up dozens of state athletic titles, and they boast award-winning bands as well. A final thought. Kate and Frank Page, Cary's original power couple, a 6'4" tall, brilliant businessman, and his wife from Harnett County, with a love for education and the arts, founded the original Cary Academy. Today, the existing Cary Academy off of Harrison Avenue was founded by a 6'4" tall, brilliant businessman and his wife, who originally hailed from Harnett County, who has a love for education and the arts, Dr. Jim and Ann Goodnight, who says history does not repeat itself. Clearly, over the last 150 years, the size, scope, and student population of Cary schools has expanded because our leaders and our citizens have continuously recognized that education sustains, enhances, and grows our community, the community we all chose to call home. I want to thank the folks listed here for their help with this presentation tonight and ask you to please visit cary150.org to learn more about Cary's sesquicentennial and how you can participate in the celebration. But that's it for tonight, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you, Mr. Yerha. That was a great report, and I especially love the picture of Jack. That was, hadn't seen that picture
He
before.
somehow gets into these.
I know, every presentation.
Those are good friends. I miss them.